it going? Thank you for joining us tonight for the VIBS presentation. My name is David Grimp. I've been working with the OCP, the Openly Connected Pinball Initiative, since the end of last year. And I've been with the VIBS project from the inception. So I've kind of been focused on that for quite a while lately, so I'm happy to be here to talk with everyone here and to give you guys some insight on what it's about, how it works, and how we're going to do the installation. I have with me Nathan. He has the AtGames Legends Pinball. He has the VIBS installed, and he's a very active member in the community on the VPX and Future Pinball side as well. And he has done some great mods to his machine. But we wanted to be here together for you guys tonight to go through this process. I have, first of all, a slideshow, which we're going to start with, to kind of go through the steps of the installation. And then after that, I'll do actually a live installation. And at any time during this process, if you have questions, please go ahead and hit us up in the chat here, and we will try to answer them live for you. So I'm going to probably be distracted somewhat looking at what I'm trying to accomplish here, but Nathan will help me out with the questions, so he'll stop me if he sees some questions pop up as we go through this. So I'm going to start with the presentation here. So again, welcome. The first piece here is, where do we come from? What is VIBS? And just to make sure everything's going right, can someone put a comment out there and say hello to us? Make sure that we're broadcasting properly here. We'll wait for that for a second. So, what was the Open and Connected Pinball initiative that was started late last year? And the idea is to find a way to connect your PC pinball games to the AtGames Legends Pinball. So there was a number of options that were possible to do with third-party products. But the problem with that approach is the off-the-shelf hardware was hard to find, and sometimes it wasn't reliable, sometimes it didn't work. And anytime that you would switch between the native gaming and your external PC pinball games, you'd have to pull the wires out. So that wasn't really a very good solution. So part of that issue, we came through to find out that we could design our own board here, which is VIBS, which is the Video Input Backglass Switchboard. As part of that, it was called codename Rachel at the time. It was originally created in April 2021. So that's solving a lot of the challenges we had, because we could have this board switch the inputs with the use of a button. We could have a one-time installation, only one time doing the wiring, and then after that, you're ready to go. So all you do to switch between the native and the external pinball is to hit the switch button, which we'll go over today. All right, I'm going to put a little message out here real quick.
Just to note that we have plenty of chats that overall everything is going well. So
okay, all right, cool. I'll continue. Just making sure. All right, so just a couple of words of caution up front here. This is a sensitive board. These are sensitive electronics, and the wires are a bit fragile. So I just wanted to set the expectations up front that this isn't designed for your average user. In other words, it's not something you just go in and plug this one little simple wire in and turn it on and you're ready to go. There's a little bit of work here. And that's why we wanted to do this presentation today, to make sure that you can all see the steps up close, ask the questions, and then go forward yourself with the installation. But again, the expectations are that you've done some modding. You're aware of the handling these electronics, that they are sensitive, and that you have to be careful. And this is kind of an at your own risk piece. But for the most part, if you follow these instructions closely, then there should be no issue for you. And I just have to mention these other pieces here. The warranty for the machine, the AtGames doesn't want drilling holes in the cabinet. That will avoid the warranty. And then kind of touching or really modifying any other part of the cabinet outside of what we're talking about today will be an issue for the warranty as well. So let's dive into it first. But one thing before we get started, I wanted to talk to you about resources here. And this is an important slide, and I'll show it again at the very end of the presentation. to help you go through this. So today is one good exercise for us. We're going to do this together, and you know, we want to answer your questions. Make sure you have everything you need to do this successfully. We want a successful experience for you, and have you enjoy this whole process. So the first two bullets here are to talk about the Legends Pinball videos that we have done already. So there's two tutorials. There's an original one, the one of 3 versions there. The second one was the addendum. There was some clarifications that we needed to make from the first one. And then today's live stream. So it's kind of a 3-part piece to help you get the full picture of what we're trying to accomplish. And second is the instruction manual. So that is kind of a summarized view of what we're talking about here in the video. Okay. So later on down the line here, you can see the Legends Pinball Guide. There's a third-party partner, Wagner's Tech Talk. He's been producing some good content about the AtGames Legends Pinball, and he also has some kind of a summarization of things from the community that people have found if they've run into some issues. He has some troubleshooting tips and some other comments and ideas that the community has come forth and shared. And we found that that's a good location to find all that data. And then also the AtGames Legends Pinball fan page on Facebook. So at high level, and I'm going to go into all detail because I don't know the experience level of everyone here, but I'm just going to go through the diagram here. Basically, from your PC, the assumption is you have a PC running the virtual pinball, either VPX, Future Pinball, FX3, whatever the case may be. And you'll have one HDMI connection for the main display on your pinball coming out from your PC. So your PC needs 2 HDMI out connectors. So the first one will be for the main screen. The second one will go to VIBS for the backglass screen. And then you'll need a USB connection from your PC to the Legends Pinball to handle the Legends Pinball controls, so that you can actually use the flipper buttons and everything on the Legends Pinball running your PC-based virtual pinball. So what do you get in the box? So here it is. I'll just go through A through E on the diagram there. First piece is the EDP cable. That is only necessary for if you have a newer production model, and we're going to go through that in a minute to explain what that means. But that will be a wire that may be used. If you have an older one, if you're I believe it's waves 1 and 2, you will not require that cable. So again, I'll explain that in a second. Item B there is the cable for the button that you're going to connect to the board and then to the button micro switch. Item C is the actual VIBS board itself. Item D is the button housing, and then E is the micro switch. So we're going to go through those pieces in a few moments. Let me check questions here. Nathan, are you able to watch those?
Yep. So the only question that I've seen come up, I think you're about to talk about it. So I wanted to know, when you connect your PC to the unit, you just use the HDMI cable and a USB cable, or is there a third cable you need? So he's kind of going over that slide now as far as what cables are that come with it. And of course, just stay tuned for the install video. I know it'll answer that question.
Okay, great. All right. Yeah, just hit me up if you see something urgent there. I don't want to miss anybody. Okay, so let's talk about the board, the inputs for the board here real quick. These are the areas where we're going to connect to. All right. So on the bottom left is where the input for the backglass video is coming from the main board. That's going to be coming in so that you can run your native pinball backglass feed through the board itself. B is where the external source is going to come from your PC for your backglass. Okay, so that's going to be your HDMI connection from your PC. C is the button connector, the 2-pin button connector, so that you can switch the inputs. And D is the output that's going to your backglass. So that's going to be using the existing wire that is there in your backglass. So I'm going to explain to you, we don't want to be taking that wire out. We're just going to use the same wire for that feed. So an important thing to focus on here is the EDP cable ports. So a lot of people aren't familiar with them, and I wasn't familiar with them either when I first came into this. So these are ports to handle that EDP cable coming in, but they have a lock and unlock mechanism. All right, so there's a little black lever on there that that goes up and down. So when it's in the up position, the actual port is unlocked, and when it is in down position, it's locked. So if you're trying to put the cable in at any time, or trying to take it out for that matter, and it's not moving at all, then more than likely the port is locked. And you can't force the cable in or out, okay? And if you do, you're basically going to ruin it. So the cables are sensitive and fragile. So I just want to make that point very clear that if something's going wrong, more than likely it's locked. So that's the first thing we want to check anytime that we're doing a cable connection to the board. All right, the other... Go ahead.
Got a question here real quick. In regards to the two HDMI cables, one that goes to the play field, of course, and one would go to the VIBS. If we have a display port and one HDMI, I assume they mean on the video card, can we use the display port to HDMI adapter for the second cable? And the answer to that is yes.
Yeah, exactly. So is this the question here? The cables we want to use from your PC, that's up to you. You can have display port coming out. You can have what was the other one? I don't know if it's FireWire, like the USB-C connection to HDMI. As long as your cables are ending in HDMI, so that they can connect directly to the ALP and to VIBS. So that's the important part, is that what the ALP is expecting and what VIBS is expecting is an HDMI connector. So how you're getting that out of your graphics card is not that relevant, but the important part is ending in HDMI. Good question. Thunderbolt, thank you. Jordan, we're going to highlight you. Thunderbolt is what the word I was looking for earlier.
There you go.
Okay. Oh, I skipped the most important part. Okay, on the bottom right of this diagram here, you can see two pictures. And like I talked about earlier, the early waves of the ALP have what's called the early production model, and that's what mine was. So that is how the main board is connected to the backglass. That's where the bridge happens. So when you shipped your ALP, when you were putting it together, you probably had to mess with that, where the back box was and the main board were not connected from the signal. So you had to put those two together. And most of you, I assume, have what looks like the later production model. Okay. So if you don't have later production model, you can put a note in the comments so we can see that. But for the live installation part of this presentation, I'm going to assume that you all have the later production model. So that's what we're going to be focusing on mainly. But I will cover the early production model here in the slides, but the live actual installation is going to be on the later production model. All right. So, like I said, the early production model has the cable from the main board going to the backglass, and it has a small adapter that says push to lock there. And we do have early production model from Rexman. Okay, so I may cover that a little bit after in the live presentation too. Alex is talking to me for some reason. All right, so with the early production method, you're probably already aware of how to connect or disconnect this cable, but if you're not, you have to be careful to when you're doing the disconnection there. So what I always did is where it says push to lock, I hold that with my left hand, my thumb and finger, and then slide up the slots on the side where you see A. So once you slide those up, that is, then you should be able to take the top cable out, and then kind of switch hands. I use my right hand to hold push to lock, slide those bottom levers down, and that will remove the adapter between the two cables. So I can show you that later if you want to. Just remind me when we get to the live part. But it will require me to kind of reconnect everything. Right now I have it set up to look like the later production model. But regardless, we're going to go through these steps here. So you obviously were successful in putting it together the first time for the early production model, so now you just have to undo what you did. And it's fairly easy if you follow these steps here. The video itself that we made earlier shows that pretty clearly as well. So the first video, you may want to check that out.
So do you know if those links for the videos you had on slide 6 will be below the YouTube video or
Yeah.
shared. Okay, there you
That's
go.
a good point. I will try to cut and paste that later after the presentation. I'll put those in there so people will have those resources in the description, and
Perfect.
it'll be easier to see. All right. So, sorry, on the early production method in the bottom right, this is what it looks like here after you're done. After you take that connector out, you just have one cable going to the back glass, one cable going to the main board, and VIBS goes between those two. Okay, it's pretty simple setup. With the later production model, if this is what you have, you'll see this picture here. You have what's between the cabling, you have what's called a signal transfer board. And you also have a non-standard HDMI connector going into that signal transfer board, that little rectangular green board. And so one thing about that I want to mention first off is that this HDMI connector here, is not the standard HDMI. So please don't plug any other device into that. This HDMI cable, this non-standard HDMI cable is coming from your main board. So you really don't want to plug anything else into the signal transfer board here because you're going to run into a problem for sure. Because that's really made for just transmitting the signal. It was made this way to make it easier for people to connect their back box to the main board in the later generations of the pinball machines. So remember that. So in this setup here, we talked about the EDP lock and how to do that. So you basically have to go in, unlock that signal transfer board from your backglass EDP cable, and it end up like this. So you'll just have the EDP, the STB, too many acronyms, the signal transfer board sitting in your hand there, and the EDP cable to the backglass is disconnected. So to kind of catch up to where we want to go still, this is still for the later production method, we have to take that signal transfer board and connect it to the cable that came with your VIBS. Okay, so there was one EDP cable that came with your VIBS, and we just go ahead and connect it to the signal transfer board, blue end up, and then you're done with that particular piece. Okay, here's a question here.
Yeah, I see a couple. Yep, there we go.
Can you use a splitter to get two HDMI signals from one HDMI output? If you're using a splitter, my understanding is that you're going to get the same signal. So your Windows, it depends on your PC. I haven't tried to. I know that Wagner has talked about that actually. So let me rephrase the answer. I think it is possible if you can configure Windows to see two additional outputs. So he did, on Wagner's Tech Talk, there was a discussion on that. He was doing that for a particular case to get his backglass out, and I think he was planning long-term to get the DMD signal out too. So that is worth a try, and I will, again, put those links out at the end there for his site so you can see what the option he had done.
Yeah, to my knowledge, a splitter is a splitter, so you'll get the same video signal on each port. Out, in a standard, using a standard splitter.
Yeah, in a standard splitter, but I think there are some that can somehow do multiple signals out, but I don't. Most splitters out of the box, where you just want to switch between one input to another, that's just going to have the same signals. So that's, ideally your graphics card has at least two outs to handle the main display, and then the backglass video.
And there are other ways you can do, like a Thunderbolt hub, or it looks like that was just brought up, or some USB, like USB to video adapters can sometimes help. Ideally, you have everything off the same video card, separate outputs, but there are some additional other options that could work.
There's a question here from Jason. He's asking, is it safe to use the mounting tape on the VIBS board to mount inside the machine? We're going to talk about tape later. In the first video, we talked about removing some tape to make things easier for the installation part, but we're going to kind of steer away from that advice at this point because some people were not sure which tape to remove because there could be, each machine may be slightly different in where the tape is, and that can lead to some trouble. So for mounting, I've seen a couple other different options out there, but there are some stickers I forgot the name of them, and I will include that at the description at the bottom. But there are some stickers that have posts that you can mount the board easily inside your cabinet, which seems to be a good and safe option.
Yeah, there's a question here. Can you use a USB to HDMI as an output? We kind of touched base on that. There are adapters you can purchase. A lot of times people use them for laptops, like little portable docks that are like USB-C that'll have an HDMI output on there that Windows will pick up as a separate screen, that sort of thing. And there's also some USB ones out there. In general, it's recommended to have everything run off the same video card, but if it's not possible, yeah, that definitely does exist and should work.
Yeah, and when you are using something like that, I think it depends on how powerful your machine is to be able to handle that. But that's just an experiment, I guess, to try. Thank you. Skylar is telling me they are called adhesive standoffs. I like the assistance here. It's almost like
yeah,
it's not bad. Yeah. And there's another one here from Wagner. He said he had better luck with a USB to HDMI device for VIBS. So he, like I was telling you earlier, yeah, he's using the dual HDMI adapter. So that's different than a splitter. Okay, so that's probably what the person who asked the original question is looking for. Yeah, that's good. All right. Okay, so getting back to this, we've connected the extra wire with your VIBS going into your signal transfer board, and then you're ready to go to the next step. So with the later production method, I personally like to kind of tuck those wires down below into the bottom of the cabinet. And I should have mentioned earlier in the very beginning of this presentation that whenever I'm working with electronics, personally, I unplug the machine. I think it's just wise to do. And you should also try to see if you can be properly grounded and everything else when you're handling these components. So to get stuff out of the way, I like to push down the cable here into the bottom cabinet portion, and then we'll be ready to go to do the connection to VIBS here. All right, so from this point forward, the early production model and the late production model are exactly the same. So the first thing we want to do is connect the backglass cable to the port D on your VIBS. And some of these pictures are a little old, so this is a pre-production model, but I'm going to do the install with the actual production model. So disregard the color of those wires on the right side there. So you basically take the backglass cable and connect it to the portion D. So you got to unlock slot D and then lock it onto the board at that point. All right. Now we're going in from the other side. So now we're taking the feed wire that was either connected to the signal transfer board or the wire that was already in place. If you had the early production model, the feed for the native backglass feed, it's going to go into A. So basically at this point, those are really the two main connections. It's kind of going through this switchboard, as you can see. Coming in from the left is the native signal, and then we're about to get to the external signal here next.
You have a quick question popped up here.
All right.
After unplugging, does flipping the power switch discharge any remaining energy that will be present? I assume he means in the VIBS board. Since doesn't have a separate power source, I would assume that would be the case.
Yeah, I would assume that as well. That is a good question, though. I don't know 100%, but because it is not using an external power source, I would assume that is the case. All right. So now we want to attach your external source, your backglass source, from your PC. And in my example here, I'm using that right angle adapter, HDMI adapter. I just thought it was easier to use when I was doing the original video, and I've kind of kept it for the purpose, the permanent way. So that just lets you do a right angle into the VIBS board at port B, and then you plug your external backglass HDMI cable from your PC into the end of the adapter. Now, I found that works pretty well, but you don't have to do that. You can take your HDMI cable directly from your PC and plug it right into B. So again, this is the signal for the backglass from your PC. So we assume then at this point we're ready to go, with the exception of the buttons. And the button connection here is quite easy to put together. I will try to do that on the live side of things. But basically, you take the micro switch and line up the top hole there for the button housing, and then you just slide in the housing into the micro switch. Then you connect the cabling, and on one side the two slide-in pin cables there, and then the 2-pin cable goes to the main board, and then the other end of the cable will connect to the micro switch. We'll do that afterward. Any other questions, Nathan? Are we good?
No, nothing new. Just wanted to make note that that's an early production model in the picture, so the wiring is actually red and black.
Yeah.
Instead of red and yellow, but it's the same otherwise.
Right. And so when we do it live, you'll see the production model. Okay. Then, as we discussed here, I just go into a little detail about connecting it to your PC. So in my case here, that's the laptop I was using for the testing. The output from A, that's a Thunderbolt. Okay, so that is a Thunderbolt on one end, and then the other end of the wire is HDMI, and that's what I had going to the VIBS. Okay, you can see on the right side. The output B is an actual HDMI output, and the other end of the cable is HDMI as well. And that goes to B on the bottom right picture here. That's your input for the main display. And then a USB-A cable, as that C there, a lot of letters. And you're going from your PC there to the rightmost USB connection on the top panel of your AtGames Legends Pinball. Do not use the middle USB 3.0, but use the one next to it, the USB 2.0 port.
So it's a good time to bring up. I saw a couple questions about it. Do we have a recommendation for the USB cable at C in this case for this photo? It just needs to be USB A to A. I mean, nothing spectacular, right? USB 2 or 3 cables should work fine.
I know some people have, I think, reported in the past that they had troubles with their cable, or their PC wasn't recognizing their cable. I had just used the gamer cable personally, and I had no problems with it, the one that came with it. But yeah, I think there's resources out there, and maybe even on Wagner's site, that will list the proven USB-A cables that work in this instance.
Yeah, any quality tables should work fine. I've tried 2 or 3, the ones that come with the Gamer Pro myself, and I have some. I think I don't know if I'm supposed to mention the brand, but a couple very popular brands you can get that have worked just fine. I have 6-foot, a 10-foot, and in both cases I have no problems.
Great. Okay. So just to mention kind of how, at a high level, how this works for the input from your PC, there's a under the settings in your Legends Pinball, there's an HDMI input icon, and what you're going to do is, after you get everything connected, you get your Legends Pinball plugged in after all these changes, power up your PC, and then get your virtual pinball running. Of course, before that, you're going to have set up your screens, your multi-screen setup, and we're not going to dive into that here. We're really focused on what happens at the connection level of the ALP, not the setup of VPX, etc. But once you have that up and running, then you're going to go to the HDMI input screen, and you're going to select OTG. That will allow your USB cable to work with your PC, so you can have the controls running. Before that, I should mention that you're going to want to have Joy-to-Key or some other kind of key emulator running on your PC. That's what I use as Joy-to-Key, and there's other resources out there that have those files available for you, so you can try those. But you want to set that to OTG and have your main display set, and I think we are, as somebody just mentioned there, we have defaults set up to 90 degrees, so that should be the proper orientation. So that is this is all for your main display, showing the main pinball table on your main display and setting up your controls. So that's what we're doing here to get that up and running. Yeah,
and just note the 90 degrees is important from your PC side. So as long as your PC monitors are in landscape mode, you want 90 degrees so it displays properly on the ALP. Uh, yeah, I see
Exactly.
that. XPatter is also a very good one. I actually use that myself. Uh, and of course, Jordy Key is another mapping application. So
Very good. We don't have a Joy to Keep tutorial, but I know they're out there. I've seen some YouTube videos on that, and I think in the community threads, if you asked to, there would be a lot of assistance. But basically, once you have that configuration file set up and you have it up and running, and you've selected that config file, you should be in pretty good shape. All right, then the final piece of the puzzle for getting your pinball machine to work with the backglass is basically using the VIBS button. So we've gone through, we've set up the HDMI in, we have the USB, we have the main display running nicely. Now you just simply click on your VIBS button, and it will switch from the native display, which is Legends Pinball, and it will change to your PC screen, which in this case is just a blue background there. But that's basically all you have to do to switch. And then when you're ready, you're done playing with that, you can hit the button again, and it'll return to the native screen. If you are doing your switching on your button and you find this in the display, that there might be a problem with your machine. So just remember, you should be seeing your PC screen, not that. Sorry, that was a bad joke.
unless that's your desktop background, because everybody likes that.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to do a little Q&A here if you have anything based on that, what we just covered now. If not, then I'm going to slide over to the VIBS cam and do the basic install for the later production method.
There you got to laugh, meatball sauce.
Yes, I have to highlight that. We've got one, and we've got two. All right, that's all I needed. Okay, very good. So let me get that set up real quick here. So I'm going to add this. I'm going to remove my.
All right, he's going to move over to the VIBS cam and kind of show off how the install's done. Currently set up as a later production model connectivity at the moment.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Great. Okay. Let me get myself situated here. I've set up my office like an obstacle course. For some reason, it's not easy to get around in here. Okay. So here is, as you can see there, is a simulation of the late production method. So we have the signal transfer board, as we discussed earlier, and we have the cable going into it from the backglass. All right. So one thing I want to focus real quick is about tape. And there's two pieces of tape here, right? The first one you can see is a tape that's holding the EDP cable into the backglass, all right? And then the second piece of tape here was actually holding the EDP wire that went into the backglass, kind of holding it against the base of the backboard. So my recommendation at this point is don't do anything with tape, because yours may look different. Unless it's absolutely necessary, I don't think there's any reason why you need to remove any of this tape. And some people, as I said, have removed this piece here, which has caused a lot of trouble, because then the connector to the back of the backglass pops out, and then suddenly you're not going to have any signal at all to your backglass. So my recommendation is leave the tape alone, just work around it. Okay. So let's get back to the signal transfer board here. You can see the cable coming in from below the below cabinet here. That's the signal from the main board. But what we want to do is disconnect the backglass cable from the signal transfer board. So again, here's that black bar we talked about, right? And it's in the locked position. It's flat. So you have to get it's a little tricky sometimes, but you got to get your hand around it until you hear that pop. And once that black bar is up, then you can slowly and carefully lift out the cable like that, okay? And again, these are fragile, so you have to be careful with that. So every step of this, be very careful and slow. Nathan, any questions on that one?
Oh, no, not yet. Just a reiteration of don't touch the tape that's connected to the cable to the backglass.
Right. All Right here now is the cable that comes with it, your VIBS. I'm kind of it's kind of zoomed in quite a bit here, but there's the blue end and then the white end. What we want to use for the signal transfer board is the blue end. So again, just double check. Let's make sure that that lock is open and it's upright, which it is. Then we slowly try to slide the cable into that slot, and once it doesn't go in any further, push down the black bar, and now we're locked in place. Okay, so that is how you connect the extra cable to the signal transfer board. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I like to tuck all this down here and get it out of the way. So I'm going to do that right now. So here we are with the two ends of the cable, right? One is coming to the main board, and this one's going to the backglass. Now, we can take the VIBS board here, okay? And we're going to start with the cable from the main board. So let's make sure here that the black bar is up, that we are unlocked. Then we carefully slide in this cable. Once it doesn't go any further, push down that bar. So it should be fairly easy to slide in, and then the lock mechanism, you just push down, lock that in place. Okay. In a similar fashion, we check the top here, make sure it's unlocked, which it is. Fit in the cable here slowly, again until it doesn't go any further. Push down the lock bar, and you're gold. Now I'm not going to talk about mounting this and all that, but as we mentioned, those stickers is the wrong word, I forgot it already, but there are nice mounts you can buy that will go through these holes here, and then you can just place your board against the backboard wall there, which is nice. Okay, so that has done that piece. So now, which I should have taken out earlier, I'll grab my cable here. Remember I talked about having the right angle adapter. This is the cable from my PC. So I'm going to feed that personally. This is what I like to do. I'm feeding it through from the bottom portion of the cabinet. Okay, give it a little bit of slack. And then this is simple HDMI, right? HDMI to HDMI here. That's all there is to it. So push that in here slowly, carefully. Now that's in place. And essentially that's it, with the exception of the button. Okay, so let's look at the button real quick. As we discussed, here is the button housing. Okay, here's the micro switch. You of course want the red part at the bottom so that you can click that button. So what I like to do is push in the first post this way, and then slowly get underneath the second post and pop. Boom. That's it. It's fairly straightforward and pretty easy. Then we take the red and black wires that we have here, and we have the two areas to slide in here to connect. So it's as simple as pushing that in until it locks in place, and you do it the second one as well. Make sure I have it the right way up. Yep. And there we go. So that part is done. I don't know if you can see that, fairly easy, but that's the one side of the button. Then the other side, let me grab that, is the 2-pin connector. I think it's called JST. There it is. And we take that with the ridges on top, and we slowly slide that into the 2 pins here very carefully. And you are done, with the exception of mounting your board. That's basically all the steps you need. So when you want to switch your input, just simply, when everything's on and running, simply click your button. It'll go between either the native table display or your external display. So if you want, I have to move the camera around, but is there any interest in seeing that working live? I'll wait for somebody to answer. Nathan, you can tell me if anybody said that. If not, we'll return to the other view.
I did see a comment asking about the twist in the cable coming off the main board.
Mm-hmm.
If obviously you want to do your best to try to get that as flat as possible.
Exactly.
Not necessarily one way to do it, but ideally you want to try to take any kink out of the cable.
Yeah, and by the way, the way you mount this, and I've even seen it mounted horizontally with other creative options. So it's flat like this, and there are a number of ways to do it. It's just basically how you can manage your wires and try not to put major kinks or bends on either of these wires here to prolong a long life of these and not cause any issue for them. All right. Any other questions on this one, or shall I return?
I haven't seen any questions or anybody mentioned they want to see it.
Okay.
On the other side yet, so
that's fine.
Good.
All right. Very good. All right. Let me return over there. One moment.
No, you won't see any gameplay today.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I'm not going to probably do gameplay today, but I mean, if you want to see the actual switching mechanism, I can move the camera around in that. But otherwise, we can take additional questions if you want. But if you want to, I'll show it live, at least the clicking between the two. So let me set that up for a second, and I'll be right back. So Nathan, I'm going to leave you here with the question board, and I will be right back.
Okay. Yeah, I see the note about ribbon cables being folded. Ideally, obviously, you don't want to fold them if they do have a little bit of bend in there. Probably not going to be an issue, but over time, you want to try to do your best to keep any pressure off those cables. Keep them as flat as you can. Yeah, so I see a question about the backglassing, almost flashing different colors. That flashing just means it doesn't have an input signal. So until there's a signal coming in, it will flash. Flash through the colors until you either switch to the stock backglass and or have a video output coming from your PC running to the board.
Hey, it's me again. I just realized I don't have the machine that I have everything running on is the one I'm using for this video, so probably not going to be able to show that right now. But we're here right now for any additional questions that you may have. I'm going to move this display here to those links that we discussed before. If you want to go ahead and either you can jot those down, or I will copy them again, like I said, back into the description of the video afterward. All right, so I hope you guys found that helpful. If you want me to focus on another part that we covered already tonight, if you want some other deeper explanation, let me know, or let us know now, and we can do that. Otherwise, we can do a wrap.
I do have one question. Where is the recommended place to mount the button? If you want to, I don't know if you want to kind of touch base on options to mount it.
The mounting of the button is really up to you. This, by the way, I want to bring this up again. The PCB feet approach is what people have done for VIBS that works nicely. The ones that are stickers, especially. The button, you can do whatever you want as far as the mounting, but a lot of people like to have it under the cabinet is one option. So you could run the wires out the back, and then using like a double Velcro or some kind of command tape or that kind of thing. Just have it underneath the front, so you could click that button and do your switching whenever you want to play. But that's what I was probably going to do, something like that. I haven't done it yet because I've done a lot of the testing of this and preparing for these kind of videos. So I don't even have it set up permanently yet, but I will eventually. And that's one idea. But a lot of people have creative ideas out there to do that. Can you go over to recommended button? Oh, that was Kong. Hello, B. Yeah, so the solution I just mentioned there is not have drilling involved at all. So you could run the wires out the bottom back panel if you leave that open. You could run them underneath your Legends Pinball and have that mounted again with a Velcro or some kind of a double-sided tape, something like that, command strips, whatever the case may be. And then you will have that button available to you under the front because the wire is long enough for that. And then you can do the switch from that point forward.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if the distance from the board can impact reliability of the button. If the wire, the full wire length, if you walk completely opposite direction holding that wire, it'll still switch fine. So yeah, no issue with how long you run the wire from the board. The wire length included is perfectly fine. You won't have any issues there.
Right. Yeah, the Wagner is talking about some other options. People are getting very creative out there, and I have to say, I really appreciate the support from the community to each other. Okay, I know everybody's out there trying to help each other when people have problems, and it's a great community. It's amazing how well everybody comes to everybody else's rescue, so to speak, or tries to help. And I think that can help this whole hobby grow and increase in its complexity and joy, really. So it's thank you to all of you for that. And so getting back to the question, there are other people who are looking at creating 3D models or 3D printing models to do mounting the button underneath or other places. So a lot of interesting things going out there. So I recommend you get involved with the Facebook groups and watch what's happening there, because there are a lot of solutions that and creativity, quite honestly, that people are coming up with. It's a lot of fun. It's really neat. Okay, PCB feet, yes. PCB feet on Thingiverse, that's another option from Robert Bowling.
You want to know if it comes with a 90-degree HDMI cable? It does not. That would have to be a separate purchase if you decide.
Yes, yeah, right. So I got that on my own from your favorite store, Amazon. But that you can probably get that anywhere. Or, again, you don't have to have that. I just found it easier to manage the cabling. Other people are saying Discord channel is the most helped. That's pretty good. I haven't myself dove in there, but I know a lot of people are getting a lot of success and a lot of good information from Discord. So that's another option for you to check out.
Absolutely. The Facebook pages, Discord, there's lots of places where a lot of people are very helpful. So definitely check everything out.
And here's another comment. Killer penguins, evidently. Sounds dangerous. Did a nice video of the non-invasive options for mounting a button. So that's another solution out there, according to the J that he has checked out. So thank you for that. All right. Well, if nothing else pressing for the VIBS, I'll let you guys go and enjoy your evening. I appreciate you all coming out. I know some of you are still waiting for it, or haven't ordered it yet, but when you do, go ahead and take a look at those 2 other videos and the instructions, and then maybe you can even review this if you're interested, this live stream, because we did cover a little more in depth here of the installation process than the other 2 videos. So I really appreciate everybody coming. I hope you got a lot out of this, and everybody have a good evening.
Take care, everybody, and happy gaming.
Happy gaming. Thanks, Nathan. Enjoy the pinball.